everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. You are now watching a video that's part of a larger playlist about accessing Zoom and Canvas when you're going to remote learning online. I am C.R. Grimmer. This is my channel, The Poetry Vlog. You can like and subscribe to keep up with these how-to videos or check out my other content, which is mostly interviews with poets, artists, activists, and scholars. So today's video, we are actually departing a little bit from our usual technical how-tos. This video will walk you through some best practices that we've put together on running online discussion boards. So I will be demonstrating this in Canvas, and I will show you the technical side to that, but that's not the emphasis of this video. So if you use Moodle, Blackboard, or another forum for online discussions, this video is equally relevant to you because we will be focusing much more on how do you create an online discussion prompt that generates effective, useful, sustained engagement, and how do you take the time to respond to them thoughtfully without either copy-pasting kind of canned responses, but also not spending hours responding to individual comments. Finally, I give you my best practices and ideas for how students can respond to each other without getting trapped in that kind of online discussion board back and forth that's not always productive. So I hope that these different tips support you in using online discussions. Again, we've got the 4 pieces to it: Canvas, which you can give or take, and then the idea of how to create the prompt, how to respond as an instructor, and how students can respond best to each other. As always, let us know in the comments below what how-to videos are helpful for you. This video, for instance, is because we had a number of requests specifically for more content about creating online discussions and engaging with students online. So that feedback's always helpful, and keep us posted. Like, subscribe, enjoy, and I hope that you all have a wonderful day. This course shell, you'll see I'm in the Discussions tab. If you click on that, your discussions you have so far will pop up. If you pin them, they'll be up at the top. Everything else will be below, and then any that you've closed will be even below that, which is a nice hierarchy. When you're creating a discussion board post, you do just click Discussion. You do your title right here. You can do your content right here, and you'll see that you can embed a video or audio file. You can link to other external websites. You can add images. You can insert math equations. You can record and upload media. Pretty much whatever you want them to discuss, you can put right here. And you can attach different things that are already on your Canvas page through this tab over here: links, files, and images. In your settings, I'm going to zoom in down here. You'll see that you can attach different files. You can specify if you want any groups to only be able to access it. And then I always recommend, if you're hoping for an engaged discussion, that you allow threaded replies, that you let them know that they must post before seeing replies so they can't just copy each other or start all saying the same thing. For the purposes of today's tutorial, you'll want to have it graded. We'll make it 1 point. And then I like to allow liking, but some folks are a little bit pickier on that. That's just personal preference. You can set a due date, and you can set an available to and from page, which allows people to see it for a period of time until you've closed it for discussion. So this is our test one, no title. I'm going to go to one that my colleagues and I created for the purposes of talking through some more philosophical and maybe teaching pedagogy related items on discussion boards. So we're not going to dwell on the technicals, we're going to dwell here on the content. So when I create online discussion boards, I'll give you an example of one from my class. I have a project, which if you're watching this video you know about, called The Poetry Vlog. So for me, I have them go find that video and watch it. But this part right here is where you can link them to any content in the class that you're hoping they absorb. The second step, I always ask students in a short paragraph to first respond with a very personal stake in the conversation. So in the case of the content I've created, there are questions throughout the episodes that allow students to kind of think about, what if I were the interview person and I got to answer this question, what would I say? Or sometimes we'll ask questions of the audience and they'll respond as the audience. All that I'm really looking for in this first paragraph is, did you engage with the material, and have you thought about your own position and relationship to that material? This helps make sure that we don't just have practical, yes, I understand, no, I don't understand responses from students, and it's another way that I can get to know students on a more one-on-one level and check in every week on how they're doing. The second paragraph, what I like to do is I will actually use the course text and ask them to apply it to what is basically the primary text or the content they initially viewed. So for instance, if the poetry vlog video with Jericho Brown is the primary text, and if the shared course content is about multimodal writing, in 282 I've had my students reading Writer Designer. And this is where I take a piece from their reading in the week and I ask them to apply it to that video. They can apply it to the video as its own kind of mode and genre, or they can apply it to the content within the discussion, such as Jericho's book. But what I'm looking for here is, have you understood the reading this week? Do I need to fill in any gaps? And if you understand the reading, do you see how it's applicable in these different contexts? So this is where I get a better feel for where students are at with the reading. We have some samples down here from two of my colleagues who are willing to add their own types of content. So my colleague Jacob, for instance, talked about how he's doing the personal part of the interview discussion and then thinking more about the affordances. And then here we have my colleague Ben talking about things you can do within the discussion board. And I'll kind of pause over this for a moment, and you can pause your video to read both of these comments. All right, again, if that was too fast for you, just go ahead and hit pause. I'm going to come up here to some notes I've written down, which you can choose to just pause and read, or you can listen to me talk through them. It's totally up to you. So for step one, I like to make sure that they go find the source themselves. So if it's an academic article, I actually ask them to go find it in the UW library. I think it's important because it makes sure that students understand that they have to find their sources themselves at various points in life outside of the classroom. I like YouTube because it's very easy. It's the second biggest search engine in the world. The other first part of the paragraph is where I ask them to engage on a more personal level, while the third one is where they apply the different readings they've had. So these different pieces I already noted have kind of helped different students show me where they're at while giving me a heads up on how they understand the reading, so that I don't just lecture ad nauseum in class or cover something that they're already grasping, while highlighting for me what I actually do need to intervene on. I actually do not make students respond to each other. This is really crucial. I think we associate discussion boards with student posts, student B responds, student posts, student C responds, and all the way down, and it becomes pretty monotonous for everybody involved. For teachers, it can be a headache. Suddenly 40 students is actually 80 posts to read and respond to, which is pretty laborious, and a lot of those content, they're not particularly substantive. So I actually offer it as extra credit if they respond to each other with substantive answers, meaning they take the time to really say, oh, here's what I think about what you said. Here's what I appreciate about what you said. Here's where I agree or disagree. Have you thought about this? So if they're willing to take that extra step, at the end of the quarter, they just submit a screenshot of all of those and submit them as extra credit. Instead, what I do, though, for actual credit is once students have done this online discussion board and we're in class for, say, an hour together in a hybrid class or a partially synchronous class, I'll actually have the students get into their groups and read the discussion posts that are there, and they'll go through and name the ones that they think are exceptional. In naming the ones that are exceptional and giving a justification for it, they're actually internalizing the skills they need to produce their own discussion board posts. They see that if students are going to be doing this, they have an opportunity to produce really exceptional responses and have that showcased in class. So it's positive incentive. It helps everyone actually read through every comment, keeping in mind the strategies of the discussion board genre, the readings, and then students that got it wrong don't get shamed in class, they don't get marked down. They simply learn by seeing the ones that did it right so they can do better next time. In a similar vein, I actually will mark all of them just complete, and if it's an incomplete, I give them the option to revise and have the grade change to a complete. And this kind of keeps away some of that anxiety students have of having to publicly post their opinion. For grading, you don't need to go through all of these boards. So if you don't use Canvas, this is the part of the tutorial where maybe it's not particularly helpful anymore. So go ahead and take your notes on more of the philosophical approaches that I have to it. If you do use Canvas, not Canvas, you can go into SpeedGrader. So click the three dots, click SpeedGrader, and you can actually then see their individual posts that they made. So my colleagues are not students in the class. I cannot grade them, so when a student hasn't submitted, you'll just see this exactly here. The student does not have a submission for this assignment. What you see when they did post is what their comment was, and you can very quickly go ahead and hit complete, incomplete, or excused, add any additional comments. You can even do video or audio comments, right? Hit submit, and now in your Canvas gradebook, the students received credit or not for the assignment, and you've had the benefit of seeing their individual comment in isolation apart from that long thread of all the different students that are put in place. Okay, I hope this was helpful for you. It was a bit quick, so please do let me know in the comments of this video if you have further questions. I'm happy to answer them. And if you have your own strategies for discussion boards, this is something where there's enormous depth of content on the internet. Ben, for instance, suggests that you have an actual word count maximum because students might respond with more words than they need just to fill space. Some people talk about different types of prompts you can do to engage. There's a lot of things out there, so feel free to contribute in the discussion with the comments here on YouTube or shoot me an email and follow up. But overall, I hope this gives you some ideas about ways to use discussion boards without adding too much to your workload. All right, have a great day.